Welcome to the channel, That Retired Guy. In this episode, I'm going to be talking about something very familiar to seniors, downsizing and decluttering. Now, for the young people watching, you'll know this as minimalizing or living the minimalist lifestyle. Now, for us old folks, it's just common sense. The kids move out, you get rid of that big house, you downsize, you get yourself a little bit of retirement income, clean out the garage, you sell off all those old tchotchkes, and voila, you're a minimalist. Now, the trick is, how do you get rid of all that old stuff? The kids don't want that. They're minimalists now. They got their own stuff to get rid of. Now, the old school way of doing this is you have a yard sale. Clean out your garage, put everything out on the front lawn, put a price sticker on the thing, and you sell it off. But then you got to wait till springtime. So the other way that we used to do it is we put an ad in the classified paper. Well, it takes you about a week before the thing shows up in the newspaper. 5 or 10 people read it. Costs you money to put an ad in there. Doesn't really work all that great. The other way is, I don't know if you remember, they had these radio shows, Sunday afternoon, the buy and sell program. I used to listen to it on CFOS in Owen Sound every Sunday afternoon. But the problem there is you got to phone in the radio station if you want to buy something. Very complicated. Now, today there's all kinds of ways you can do this, especially online. And when you're talking about online sales, you're talking about fast. You can reach all kinds of people. You could promote your ad with all kinds of pictures. And did I mention it's free? Now, the most popular ones you're going to be familiar with are probably Craigslist and Kijiji, particularly in Canada. But there's lots of other ones out there. There's ones called Let Go, Virage Sale, Use.ca, and now even the big tech companies are getting involved in it. You got Facebook Marketplace out there, which is trying to sell you stuff when you're just trying to put your pictures online. So the big ones are Kijiji and Craigslist. Now, I'm most familiar with Kijiji because that's what we use certainly in Canada. When I was down in the States, I tried to use it, couldn't find it. Turns out that in 2010, it was renamed to eBay Classified in the States. I didn't know that. So that's where I got my experience with Craigslist. That really worked when I was down in Florida. Now, the other thing that's interesting is Kijiji in Canada is really only most popular on the east, out in the east. When you're in BC, I tried to put stuff online out here, and I got no response from Kijiji, and all kinds of people are interested when I put stuff on Craigslist. If you go online to try and find out what's the difference between Craigslist and Kijiji, they'll tell you that the main thing is Kijiji has more pets, whatever that means. So let's take a look at the history of these online sales platforms and maybe start out with eBay. They were the first. They came out in 1995. Actually, it was called Action Web back then. And the founder was a guy by the name of Pierre Omidyar, and on the west coast of the U.S., obviously, Silicon Valley. Anyway, if you remember that site, it used to be all about bidding. They would put these products on there and they would start a bidding process and you'd have to bid it up and it would have a timeline, deadline, that sort of thing. I always thought that was kind of a sketchy way of buying something, so I never really paid much attention to it. Interesting that the first purchaser of an online product ever in the history of the world was a Canadian by the name of Mark Fraser, who bought from eBay, and he bought a broken laser pointer. I don't know, it's going down in history as that. Anyway, the whole site grew really quickly. In 1997, they took advantage of the Beanie Baby craze. You remember those back in the day? And they sold $500 million worth of Beanie Babies online on eBay. That same year, they sold their 1 millionth item. And you'll never guess what the 1 millionth item was. It was a Big Bird Jack-in-the-Box. Remember Sesame Street and Big Bird? Well, they sold a Jack-in-the-Box of Big Bird. Anyways, it went global shortly after that. UK, Australia, Germany, and they're now in over 180 countries around the world. You may remember they were the ones that also introduced PayPal back in 2002. Now they got out of that around 2015, I think. So around 2005 is when Kijiji came into being, and it was created by eBay as their classified sales portal online. And also of interest is, where did the name come from? Like, people have a hard time even saying Kijiji, but turns out it's a Swahili word that stands for village. Never knew that. Now, eBay grew to be one of the biggest online retailers. I think they're third in the world right now. They have $11 billion in sales. That was 2019. They were also recently overtaken by Shopify. And I did not know this. Shopify is a Canadian company, actually out of Ontario. So they're the second biggest online retailer in the world. Now, of course, the number one is Amazon, and they have like $290 billion in sales in 2019. Now, 2020 with COVID, it's, I'm sure, going to be crazy, the amount of sales that they've had. I mean, what else we got to do but go online and buy stuff, right? Of course, if you're a minimalist, you're going to turn around and sell that stuff right away, right? Now, there's a lot out there about online shopping, and I thought maybe I should even do a video on that sometime, talking about the ins and outs of online shopping. If that's an interest to you, send me a note at my email, or leave a comment below, and I'll maybe do a video on that. So back to Kijiji. Now, it was started in 2005 by eBay, as I mentioned, and but it's gone on to become the number one online classified ad sales in Canada. It's got 3 times the traffic of Craigslist. And there are 16 million visitors per month on Kijiji, 6 million live ads at any one time, and they say that they have postings of 2 ads per second on Kijiji. Now, the thing is, it's easy to use. All you got to do is make sure you got an account. You go in there and you push on that button that says post the ad, and away you go. Okay, so make sure you give it a good catchy title. Not like this. This is not very creative. Select your category. Now, you'll have different options, ways that you can have it picked up or delivered. I always go with the curbside pickup or some kind of a safe drop-off site. Make sure that you give it a good description, something that's going to attract people to your product. And then you have the option to put in a bunch of pictures. Now, take lots, and your cell phone works. Upload it to your laptop and put it onto the site. Check to make sure that the location is correct. They should pick it up off of your account, so it should be all right. And set a price. Usually you can't charge more than about half the price of the new product. Now, you can put your phone number in, but if you don't, they'll contact you by email. And that's it. Easy peasy. So that's a little bit about Kijiji. Now let's take a look at Craigslist. It was founded back in 1999 by Craig Newmark. Yes, Craig founded Craigslist. Actually, that's what it was at the beginning. It was simply a list of items that he had for sale that he was posting online. Now, Craig is one of the biggest philanthropists in the United States. In 2018, he donated more money than Bill and Melinda Gates. Now, Craigslist is in over 700 cities in 70 countries in the world. Now, I first ran into Craigslist when I was over in Hungary. I had bought a motorcycle which I had to get rid of when I was moving back to Canada. So Craigslist was the answer. Now, Craigslist has an annual revenue of $1 billion, and actually most of it comes from job postings. There are 20 billion views per month worldwide on Craigslist. What's interesting is that Craigslist has been accused of single-handedly killing the newspaper industry. The main source of revenue for newspapers has always been classified ads. It went down 77% between the years 2000 and 2012. So, I mean, when they lose a huge amount of the revenue, their revenues went from $20 billion a year to $5 billion a year and never recovered. One of the interesting features about Craigslist is the barter option that they have. It's kind of part of that whole underground economy, and there's $2.5 trillion worth of trade in the underground economy that happens every year in the U.S., And of course, most of it is in drugs and prostitution and that sort of thing. Fun story about Craigslist. You may remember, actually, it was in the news back in the day. And Stephen Ortiz, a kid actually, 17 years old, he used the barter option on Craigslist to trade his way from an old cell phone to a 2000 Porsche Boxster. So good on him. Took him 14 trades to do it. Now, in reality, the Boxster was only worth $9,000, but still, a cell phone to a Boxster, not a bad barter. Anyway, let's take a look at Craigslist. It's easy to use. Again, the first thing you need to do is make sure you got an account. You then go click on that button that says Go, where it says New Posting in your area. And then you choose the area, of course, where you're going to be posting it, for sale by owner. Choose the category that you're going to be selling in. In this case, I'm going to sell a piece of furniture. Make some kind of a nice title again. Again, boring, folding table. Good description. You got to load in your postal code where you're going to be selling it from. Make sure you get the price in there as well. You can put make and model. So you can select the condition of the product, and then you have an option to put in your phone number if you'd like them to be contacting you that way. I usually use the text option if I do put it in, but if you don't put a phone number in, they'll just go by your email. So that works too. Make sure it's showing up in the right area. Post your pictures. Again, select lots of pictures. And there you go. It's all done. Easy. Now that's a little bit about Craigslist and how to use it. One thing I want to talk about, though, is there's a whole darker side to this online sales thing. Now, for example, when Craigslist started taking over the classified ads section and basically decimated the earnings of the newspapers, the other thing it took over was the personal ads. Now, personal ads was a perfect opportunity for all kinds of illicit trade to go on, and sex trafficking and that sort of thing. An interesting trick that they would use is they would put an ad on Craigslist for some kind of a product, but they would put a ridiculous price on the thing that's just, no one would ever think about paying that kind of price. And so as a result, there would be no interest in that, and that ad would sit there. But certain people would know that that ad really wasn't for that product. It was for something else they were going to sell. And so that would be a signal to people out there to contact those people to make those kind of trades. Now, the personal section on Craigslist was shut down in 2018 because of all the sex trafficking and the illicit trade that was going on in there. And that was the bill, the FOSTA bill, FOSTA, stands for Fight Online Sex Trafficking Act. Now, Canada had shut down the personal section since 2010. So no more seeking romance or sexual connections on Craigslist. Though I'm sure when they were shut down, that was the birth of a whole bunch of those hookup sites. So the other dark side of this whole online sales thing is when people meet up to do their exchange of goods and money, that's when the trouble can start. By 2018 on Craigslist, there were 128 murders that happened in the U.S. during the exchange of goods and money. Now, that's not even to mention the huge number of violent robberies and rapes and assaults that take place every year during those exchanges. For just one example, in Edmonton alone, in 1 year, there was $170,000 worth of stolen property exchanged in online sales and 64 arrest warrants, including violent assaults that were related to sales of online goods. Now in Canada, we have our own sad story about Kijiji. Many of you remember the murder of Tim Bosma by Dallin Millard in 2013. Now he had posted an ad for his pickup truck on Kijiji and Auto Trader, and he made the mistake of going for a test drive with the guys that came to see it. Now he never returned, and later they found that he had been burned in an incinerator. I mean, all for the price of a pickup truck. So when it comes to online sales, safety is really important. Probably be a good idea to keep a few safety tips in mind. One of them I always do is only accept cash. Now, these days you can also get those transfers, email transfers of money, e-transfer, I think they call it. If you figured it out, great, go for that. But cash is always the safest way to go. Never accept a check on anything. Now, of course, you all know that if you take a check for something, you got to wait till that check clears before you know you've got the money. That's why cash is the way to go. You got the money in your hand. One of the tricks that they often use is you'll get a phone call from somebody that says they're willing to pay and buy that product you're selling for way more money than you're asking for it, actually. And they're going to do that sight unseen. Maybe just ask you to ship the thing to you. Well, what'll happen is they'll send you a check, and then they'll say, oh, can you refund the difference in money that I've sent you? Well, then you send them a bunch of money, and you find out later that their check never cleared. So, I mean, that's a scam that they use all the time. Now, my thing is, I'm not going to buy stuff that has to be shipped from an online sale because I want to be able to hand them the money when I get the product. Now, another thing to remember is don't give out your address. You don't want people coming to your house to make these exchanges. There are actually places now called safe exchange sites that you can go to and you can exchange your goods for their cash. They're often actually in the parking lots of police stations where they've got cameras mounted all around. Now, you can go online and there's a site you can look at that is called safeexchangepoint.com. You'll take a look on there and it'll show you where those sites are located. Also, you can call up your local police station and they'll tell you where the safe sites are. So with a few precautions and some good old-fashioned common sense, online sales is a pretty good way to do a little bit of decluttering and downsizing. So let's get out there and join that minimalist craze and simplify our lives. So I hope you found this video helpful, and if you have any ideas for any upcoming episodes, leave them in the comments below or send me an email. And until the next time, live your best life.